You're watching The Buck Stops Here. The big story breaking at this hour. India has raised Balochistan at the United Nations Human Rights Council. The first set of graphics is actually what we said about the unrest in Kashmir. Okay, we have to decide which ones we're going to. Two important things have happened. First, as Pakistan brought up Kashmir, India responded with Balochistan. The words used were strong. In fact, India said it would be in the fitness of things if instead of ritually raking up alleged human rights violations elsewhere, Pakistan were to focus its energies on improving human rights situation within Pakistan and Pakistan-Occupied Kashmir. Then the statement of that India placed before the UN Human Rights Council went on to say, and these are strong words, Pakistan is characterized by authoritarianism, the absence of democratic norms, and widespread human rights violations across the country, including Balochistan. This is, of course, the first time that at least I remember Balochistan actually being brought up by India at an international forum. This started, of course, with the Prime Minister mentioning this at an all-party meeting on Jammu and Kashmir, and then officially talking about it from the ramparts of the Red Fort. Now, if we can go to the earlier set of graphics, Pakistan did, of course, bring up the turmoil and the unrest and the violence in the Kashmir Valley over the last 2 months. And India has blamed in its reply Pakistan again for this unrest as well, calling it choreographed from across the border, and going on to actually say, we have shared evidence of terrorists who came across the border with instructions to target our security forces by mingling with protesting crowds and using human shields, going on to say terrorism is the most egregious violation of human rights. Now, all of this is, of course, playing out at the United Nations. The United Nations General Assembly is about to convene, and this is all happening at the Human Rights Council. So two important takeaways: Pakistan being blamed officially at an international forum for the turmoil in the Kashmir Valley, which has now lasted for more than 2 months, and Balochistan, and that's really the big one, being brought up. All of this happening on a day when, interestingly, back home, and can we just take a look at that for a moment, when, interestingly, back home, you actually had the Supreme Court rejecting a public interest petition that asked for Delhi to stop funding separatists. And the court actually then went on to say, and we can bring up these graphics and pictures, the court then actually went on to say that this was not judicially manageable, this was nothing to do with the court, and it was for the centre to decide. So we're going to be looking at all of these developments in this special discussion. Let me introduce our panel. With me in the studio is A.S. Dulat, who is, of course, the former RANW chief. I'm also joined by Sushil Pandit, commentator and Kashmiri Pandit in exile. Anuradha Bhasin Jamwal, the editor of Kashmir Times, is joining me from Jammu. Shujat Bukhari is the editor of Rising Kashmir. He's also joining us via Skype. I'm told Ambassador K.C. Singh is with us. We'll go to him in a moment. And Nalin Kohli, of course, of the BJP is with us as well. Nalin, before I go to Ambassador K.C. Singh, this is quite an eventful, packed day. We have many things to discuss. How do you see Balochistan coming up at the UN Human Rights Council? How far is the government going to take this? Because remember, this was not suo moto. This was brought up in reply to Pakistan bringing up Kashmir. Does this mean the official policy now is every time Pakistan says Kashmir, we say Balochistan? And is that a high-risk strategy?
Well, first of all, there's no question of a high-risk or a low-risk strategy. A strategy is a strategy, and the government of India, whoever the government of the day is, and now it's under Prime Minister,
can you spell out the strategy?
They will be entitled to have a point of view about what they want to do with regard to any issue that they want to deal with. Now, with regard to Balochistan, I think that matter has been coming up repeatedly. It's been on the table for a while, from 15th August onwards, pretty much on the table. We are seeing that. And I think Pakistan, for the first time, is being told in no uncertain terms, see the mirror and see how ugly you look in it. As simple as that. That you can't be here. We can't, in the name of politeness, in terms of neighborly friendship, in terms of saying, we will keep quiet, this interference and all. We must show them the mirror where it hurts the most. And I think that's about strategic interests. It has nothing to do about emotions. Should Pakistan be serious about a good relationship with India? Should they start desisting from cross-border terrorism? Should they stop interfering in Jammu and Kashmir, which is and always will be an integral part of India? Obviously, things will improve and it'll be good. Otherwise, if they think they can bring up this false duplicity in terms of good terrorists, bad terrorists, in terms of a human rights issue which they try to create, in terms of funding problems, fueling problems in Jammu and Kashmir, and forget what is happening back home.
Okay.
Then I think someone has to show them the mirror.
I want to get Mr. Dulat and Ambassador K.C. Singh into this. Is there a risk in this strategy? Because that every time Pakistan says Kashmir, India says Balochistan, because that is now clearly, we knew Pakistan would raise Kashmir at the UN Human Rights Council. That comes as no surprise. They've been meddling in Kashmir for decades. But are we in danger of drawing some sort of equivalence here?
You see, Pakistan has been doing this for some time now. Before, in fact, as soon as trouble started in Kashmir, the Kashmir issue was raised, and raised by no less a person than Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif himself. Till then, he had not been talking about Kashmir.
And we're bound to see him raising it again this year.
Yeah, and then, you know, this whole business of Burhan Wani being, you know, a martyr.
Celebrated as a martyr, by Pakistan.
And this, that, and the other. So, I think Government of India rightly took offense at what was being said. And now the Prime Minister has responded on Balochistan. Now, about as far as human rights violations in Balochistan go, this is very well known. It's been on for years.
But sir,
the question is,
the contours we're seeing take shape is Balochistan is our reply. As Nalin said, every time Pakistan says Kashmir, we'll hold up a mirror and we'll say Balochistan. Will that help us solve our problem in Kashmir?
I don't think so, no.
And that's where the debate lies, yeah.
No, it won't help you in Kashmir.
Yeah.
But it is a tit for tat, you know. I mean, you're going to raise Kashmir, then we will talk about Balochistan, and Pakistan has a lot more to answer for.
So, two important things there. You're saying it won't help us in Kashmir.
No,
but,
it won't help us.
But Pakistan, in a sense, asked for it by ratcheting it up at this level. So, Sushil, quickly, then I want to go to Ambassador K.C. Singh.
You see, you must appreciate the difference. Pakistan just doesn't raise Kashmir. Pakistan is invested into Kashmir in more than raising it at UN and different forums.
Of course, it's sending
Pakistan
militants
is
across
bleeding.
the border.
Pakistan is collapsing. Pakistan is imploding because of that. But India just about raises PoK sporadically when it is in a corner put by Pakistan. And now we are using Balochistan in a similar verbal manner, unmindful of the fact that Pakistan, if you raise Balochistan as you did, will come with a comprehensive response, and you do not have thought through strategy on Balochistan except raising it from Red Fort.
So you're saying we haven't fully thought this through?
Doesn't seem to be so.
So where is it headed?
It seems knee-jerk, and it is like raising PoK. We raised PoK in '94 when Parliament passed a resolution. We went to sleep after that, and now we raise PoK in our speeches.
So let me take that to Ambassador K.C. Singh. Ambassador K.C. Singh, Mr. Dullat says tit for tat. Sushil says, you know, we can't decide who we want to be with Pakistan. So we say PoK every time we're in a corner. Now that we're in a corner, we're saying Balochistan. Where does this eventually lead?
Barkha, this is look, it's a measured, calibrated decision on the part of Government of India to adopt a more assertive, aggressive stance on this, rather than just going through the same cycle. Two things have happened. One is the stance that Prime Minister took from the Red Fort ramparts, where he addressed PoK, Gilgit, Balochistan. Two is that firstly you say there are abuses in Pakistan itself. And second, you say Pakistan is complicit in creating terror, and that is what is causing the problem in Kashmir, which is what he did at G20. Now, the immediate provocation is that yesterday, the Human Rights Council convened, and the High Commissioner for Human Rights, in his speech, he said 2 months ago, I requested the agreement of governments of India and Pakistan to invite a team to explore Pakistan's allegations of human rights abuses in Kashmir. And last Friday, I'm quoting from his speech now, he said, I received last Friday a letter from the government of Pakistan formally inviting a delegation from the Human Rights Commissioner's office to examine their side of the line of control, but in tandem with a mission to India. But from India, there's been no response.
No,
the Indian response is, look within. If you're pointing one finger at us, there are three fingers pointing back at you. So
but how long will these three fingers go? I think how long will these three fingers extend?
Sermons.
I mean, Sushil is muttering, saying sermons, only sermons, right?
No, but it's a
verbiage.
Government has decided that it has to be an aggressive response, and this is the way they're doing it. Instead
Okay,
in the same speech of the Human Rights Commissioner, just last
But will
point.
verbal aggression suffice?
No, in the same speech itself, he's blaming US for not letting them go to the Guantanamo Bay. He's blaming the Chinese, blaming everyone. So India is saying, doesn't matter,
But I want to pick up, sir, Casey, I want to pick up on what Dullat Saab said, that this is legitimate tit for tat response, but it doesn't help us necessarily solve our own problems in the Kashmir Valley? Not necessarily. And let's just bring in a perspective quickly from Anuradha and Shujat on that, and Nalin can take that on. Anuradha, how do you see what's playing out here?
I find this analogy a little strange, Kashmir versus Balochistan, because both places there are problems and both places have a very different history. If you look at Jammu and Kashmir, and you start from 47, so you do have Pakistani involvement right from 47, and you have a part of Jammu and Kashmir on the Pakistani side, you have one part on this side. The entire history of Balochistan is very dissimilar to this. So I find this analogy a little strange. And secondly, in this entire game of tit for tat, what we are forgetting is that Kashmir is a place where people live. The people of Kashmir are being affected. And the people of Kashmir are not just being driven by Pakistan. There is a problem internally that Pakistan may be cashing in on, or trying to create trouble. But there is an internal problem inside.
Vehemently disagreeing, no surprises there. Shujat, there are, I think we have to separate the strands of this conversation. There is something playing out at the diplomatic stage, which India is perfectly entitled to as a state to do. And then there is an internal issue in the Kashmir Valley. I'm not sure that we should jumble all of this up together.
Exactly, Barkha. I mean, I think you put it rightly in the sense that at the time, I think India has a right to actually deal with Pakistan as far as its problems are concerned, tactical or otherwise. I mean, nobody can snatch that right from India. But at the same time, I think you will have to look at the situation that at the time this is being done, tit for tat, Balochistan, Pakistan-Occupied Kashmir and all other things. Your own home is burning. I mean, look at Kashmir. I mean, there's a very grim situation in Kashmir as far as human rights violations are concerned. As far as caging of people last years is concerned. For the first time in the history of Kashmir, Eid congregation.
Let me interrupt you there. You're on a Skype line, so the audio isn't great. But I think the point you're making is that your own home is burning, so this isn't going to help you there. A point that A.S. Dulat made as well. Now, Nalin, all of this, and we'll just bring in just this one other element that took place today, is happening in the midst of a raging debate on how Delhi should respond to what's happening in the Kashmir Valley. Should it engage the Kashmiri separatists? Should it isolate them? And you've been seeing a big debate taking place on the funding of separatists. The Supreme Court, and I just need to shift to those graphics, the Supreme Court today said, listen, hang on, this is not our business, this is not judicially manageable. Let the centre decide how it wants to manage its funds in the Kashmir Valley. And you have Jitendra Singh, a minister in the PMO, saying, look, the Hurriyat gets security because they may be targeted literally with their lives by Pakistan. But you have Manohar Parrikar saying withdraw facilities. To me, this reflects the confusion in our Kashmir policy. And while we can go on raising Balochistan at the UN or PoK legitimately, how does it solve the contradictions of Delhi when it comes to the Kashmiri separatists?
Too many things and too confused. So let me now segregate each one of them.
I think the government is. I think
First
Delhi
of all,
has been.
no.
I think Delhi has been for decades.
I'm not saying you. It's not a
I
charge.
think Delhi has been confused on Kashmir for decades. Congress, BJP, everybody.
Don't be defensive.
I'm not defensive.
I think when you mix all of it, it becomes
I'm not defensive. I'm just trying to greedily squeeze in a lot of questions. But go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. That's okay. Okay, so I'll greedily answer all of them. So let's go one by one.
Yeah.
The first is on mixing Balochistan and Kashmir. I think we are confusing two different things. Handling Jammu and Kashmir, wherever there is an internal situation, is the responsibility of Government of India, and that has nothing to do with Pakistan's, a Pakistan policy per se or a global policy. When Pakistan interferes in Jammu and Kashmir, then that becomes an important element for that specific policy. With regard to Balochistan, obviously the government is there looking at the global. Now we are highlighting Pakistan's duplicity on terrorism. Good terror, bad terror. You can't have this kind of thing. The syndicate, the lack of thing against terrorists, safe haven in Pakistan, that's part of the broader policy. So that's an external dimension. We don't mix it all together.
No, I don't disagree.
That's one.
I'm simply saying,
and we have
respond to Shujat, who says that this
so
won't
we are not
help
also
you at home.
a Pakistan. Yeah. But of course, that's a good, that's a very, very good statement from Shujat that he has to only go and repeat to everyone in Pakistan. It works perfectly there. That's exactly what we are trying to say for a long time. Only 7 decades so far. that look at your own home and solve your damn problems. Because in Pakistan, none of us on this panel will ever pick up a visa and say, let's go for a holiday to Pakistan. No way. You may pick up other destinations which may not be even safe, but not Pakistan. Now let's go to the next part.
Yeah.
With regard to the funding,
yes,
or with regard to Jitendra Singh ji,
yes,
or Manohar Parrikar ji,
yes,
this is not a regimented scenario that everyone has to speak in a voice. I think with regard to the separatists being mollycoddled, there is no confusion in the government. With regard to an issue whether there should be security provided to them, Pakistan wants to foment trouble there. One of the ways to foment trouble might be eliminate someone you are sympathetic to at the moment, so that you can put your hands up and say, oh, excuse me, we can't be involved in this. The Indian forces are involved in it. So there is one aspect of that, and this is a perfectly legitimate way in terms of their policy, which we may not agree with. So that's one aspect that Jitendra Singh is speaking out. Can you rule it out?
Now, let me just come in here. I want to actually play out something that Mr. Dulat said to me a while back. This was, of course, part of his book. And to me, it captures in some ways that we can't decide who we, the Indian state, want to be in the Kashmir Valley. And this is on the issue of using money to engage Kashmiri separatists. Do you confirm that many of the expenses of these separatists, the Hurriyat conference, and even some of the militants are being met by the covert agencies of India and the covert agencies of Pakistan?
Yeah, from time to time, that's well known. They have been met. Mr. Gilani Sahab hasn't been in the best of health over the last some years, and Government of India has looked after him. He has been taken to Bombay and here, there, and even his airfares, I think, have been arranged at times. This is not such a big deal. And there was a time when, you know, Yasin had a heart problem, and he was admitted in AIMS. So all these things did happen.
No, I know they happen, but nobody
as far
admits
as you know, as far let me
to
make
it.
this clear.
Nobody admits to it, sir.
You see, as far as engagement with the militants or with the separatists go, let me say very openly, very candidly that yes, we were in touch with everybody. The only thing, as far personally, the only person I've never met is Gilani Sahab, and I have a regret there. I think I would still like to meet him if I got a chance, but that's it. I've met everybody else, and I've interacted with everybody else.
Okay, so I want to bring in Mr. Dulat. You remember that interview, you remember your book. The reason I bring this up is because it comes against the backdrop of this raging debate. Now, you were somebody who could, after you retired, come out and say, what Hurriyat? I was in touch with Syed Salahuddin, who sat across the border, and you actually went on to say that, you know, you believe that India could have brought Salahuddin back and failed to do so. Right?
No, I was not in touch with Salahuddin. Let me put the record
straight. Not you
straight.
personally.
Yeah, but
that in the Indian state.
Yeah. There were people who were in touch with Salahuddin.
Yes.
And that's a fact. And of course, we were talking to separatists. I don't know why we've stopped talking to separatists. I think part of the problem arises because we've stopped talking to separatists, because we've stopped engaging people in Kashmir. I think, you know, I think the Prime Minister has said so, the Union Home Minister has said so, that Delhi is prepared to talk to everybody, but it doesn't happen, you know. So I think you got to decide, and I think
But talking to separatists is different from using money to engage them. And
are you going to keep that as an albatross around my neck?
No, not around your neck. That's the current debate. That's the current debate, which is why I bring it up.
Yeah, so money has been used. I mean, it goes back a long time in Kashmir, maybe as far back as 47. Certainly in 90, when was it, when Farooq was, removed? 84.
84.
And Mr. B.K. Naidu has written about it, that the dissidents wanted money, the defectors wanted money.
I know, but your book is not about the 80s. It's still up till pretty recently in time.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
So let's look at all these developments together.
Money has been used.
Money has been used. Should it continue to be used? Now, the reason I raise this is I want to actually look at this confused debate at home and then our very aggressive stance on the international forum when it comes to Kashmir. How do we reconcile our confused politics on Kashmiri separate? Confused.
Can you imagine?
In my opinion, confused.
Can you imagine where it has got us all these years? Throwing money at them, making them fat cats, giving them influence, stature. When they come to Delhi, they have convoys trailing them. They have security. They have
But
the
they have
best
security
of
because you
hospitality.
also have an Abdul Ghani Lone who was assassinated for being pro-dialogue. There was also the Hizbul Mujahideen faction that Mr.
Yes.
Dullat tried to oversee a dialogue with.
Yes.
All of them were wiped out just for talking
Yes,
to us.
but those who broke the back of insurgency in Kashmir were not provided any security. Kukapare died, Liaquat died. Where is Shiban Kishan Tikku? Where is Mushtaq? You have actually not invested in those who would take up cudgels on your behalf, and you are fattening those who are taking Kashmir away from India.
Let's just get, I don't know if the line to Shujat is fixed, so let me try first Anuradha. Anuradha, go ahead. Anuradha?
Look, I mean, whether it is Balochistan or raking up this whole issue of separatists getting money or separatists getting security, I think one, these things are being used as diversionary tactics. There is a problem in Kashmir. There are more than 81 people killed, 10,000 injured. You want to deflect the attention away from this serious, very grim situation of human rights violations which must be dealt with. There is a problem, there is a need for a political resolution which is not being done.
Does that include,
anyway,
should
now
it
that the
include using money for engagement? Engagement being this very ambiguous word that can be interpreted anyway.
No, let me come to that. Let me come to that.
Yeah.
Now that this issue has cropped up, it must be discussed, but not at the cost of the real issue.
Okay.
Number two, now about this particular issue.
What is the real issue? Asking
Sushil.
What is the real issue?
Well, you raised the issue about the whole separatists getting funding.
He's saying, you said the real issue must be discussed.
I think it's grossly
the real issue.
Azadi. What is
the real issue I just mentioned? There is a political problem. There are aspirations.
Can you please define that political problem?
I'll define it. That there is a separatist sentiment.
You can ask me
Let
questions
me answer.
later.
I can answer that.
Can you please teach this man some manners?
No. Okay, everybody calm down. Everybody calm down. Here's the problem.
Please.
There is a genuine...
Please, let me, why does he have to interfere
Let's move on. Let's not fight with each
other.
other. Let's move on. Shujat, let me bring in a comment on this Hurriyat controversy and we'll shift back to how India is tackling it. How do you see this entire debate? Ajat Shatru...
No, I haven't finished.
Okay, finish quickly. I'm on limited time. Finish your last sentence, then Shujat. Anuradha, yeah.
I'll take a minute. I think this whole thing about separatists getting money or kind of benefits is a little exaggerated. You played up Mr. Dullat's previous interview. As far as I remember and as far as my knowledge goes, I don't know how correct that is. You know, there are also times like Gilani's operation in Bombay or Yasin Malik's operation in the heart surgery in AIMS. These were things that happened while they were in prison. So when you have a prison inmate undergoing medical treatment, I think the state does pay for it.
No, but I don't think that's the context in which Mr. Dullat said this. Anuradha, I have what Mr. Dullat wrote in his book.
I'm not sure.
I have what Mr. Dullat is sitting here smiling and he's going to kill me after the show is over.
I'm just questioning it because...
No, but hang on. It says corrupting a person is more ethical than killing him. This is what Mr. Dullat has written in his book. So,
no, I find problems with that. I think this whole... Okay. I find problems with Mr. Dullat's entire
okay, that's a separate debate.
He looks at it as an intelligence man.
I need to get last comments on what we've seen happen at the UN today.
Democracy.
Okay, Shujat, 20 seconds and then everybody last comments on how we've handled Kashmir at the United Nations today, the Kashmir issue. Shujat, on the Hurriyat issue, and then we'll take last comments from all of you.
See, I think it was a frivolous issue. At the one hand, you were trying to knock at their doors and seeking.
Why is it frivolous to say should the taxpayer be funding them?
Let me. Yeah. No. It is frivolous in the sense that at the one hand, you are trying to go to their doors and seeking their help to restore normalcy, and on the other hand, you are actually leaking some information to the press regarding this, as Anuradha rightly said. I mean, there are only 7 Hurriyat leaders who have been given security as per the threat perception by Government of India. Number one. Number two, when Mr. Dullat says that we have given money to Hurriyat, even I read Times of India saying we have paid for the college for Hurriyat leaders. I think it's a serious issue. I think it needs to be investigated.
Okay, your line is breaking up, but you're basically saying there have been contradictory figures of how much money, how much security. We have seen Ajat Shatru say it's, 560 crores. The petition says it's 356 crores. Somebody else says actually somebody has to pause to think that this is not exactly going to be build engagement. Now, I just want to take last comments returning to what's happened at the United Nations Human Rights Council today. Ambassador K.C. Singh, if you're still with us, where do you see this headed?
Parkar, the Human Rights Council meets thrice a year. It meets in March, June and September, so it's coinciding with the meeting of the General Assembly. That's why a little more attention, and Pakistan has ratcheted up the thing by writing to them and encouraging a delegation to come and examine it. We can live with it. It will go on. Human Rights Commissioners will say, because each country has core interests, and it will defend the core interests internationally by blocking any move by them. But at the same time, you have to deal with the issue domestically.
Right.
I don't think we should mix up the two, though Pakistan would
like us
attempt
to mix
most
it up.
to do that.
Yes.
But we should not get baited by it.
That's a
But
good point.
We should address the domestic thing without rancor, without anger, and deal with Pakistan.
So I just want to get Nalin in on
multilaterally.
that. Sorry, and then Mr. Daulat can take the last word. Nalin, address the domestic issue without rancor while on a parallel track you do this. I think what Shujat and Anuradha and A.S. Daulat are saying is where are the signs of that?
Of what I've been saying too. No, but that's exactly what I've been saying too. That if the all-party delegation went there with the Home Minister and the others, they were not talking Balochistan. They were trying to talk to Kashmiris. Some met them, some didn't meet them.
Okay.
All of it, where was Balochistan part of that? So what
But it
better
was
proof
brought
than
up
that?
first at the all-party meeting on Kashmir, and I actually worry about mixing up these two issues. So she'll very quickly, then Mr. Daulat has to take the last
Nobody's
word.
mixing it. No, not at all. Because, I mean, just as a government of India is one, different ministries have different roles.
Okay.
And the same thing, I mean, if you're dealing with Jammu and Kashmir
I have
on the
to
internal
interrupt here
things,
because
you
I
have got a separate
literally have 40
approach.
seconds left.
If you're dealing external, it's a
See,
separate issue.
last week, government came out with these minutest details of how they have been feeding separatists.
But the
And
next day, the all-party meeting, they said
within
that none of it will
24
be
hours.
withdrawn.
Yes. Then you have Balochistan. Now, paying lip service to these issues is not going to help. Just last week, government gathered senior editors to give them a hush-hush brief that government thinks that what is happening in Kashmir on ground is jihad, and then said, please, this is off the record. Now, if that squeamish attitude is displayed by the government, will they fight the fight on the ground?
Mr. Daulat, please wrap this up for us.
Yeah, I think, whatever we've done at the UN may be fine, Balochistan is fine, but I think we need to sort out Kashmir. We need to engage with everybody, get all the stakeholders on board. And coming back to, the money angle again, that is not only money, money has been used, and that is what I was saying. But not everybody takes money, and not everybody wants money.
Yeah.
So
let's
think,
not simplify it and
Yeah,
have a reductionist narrative. India will react aggressively on an international forum, but there has to be a cohesive policy at home. I think we can safely all agree on that, and some consistency is needed more than contradictions. Leaving it there to our panel, there was breaking news tonight, so we had to shift the focus of our debate a little bit. I'm sure all of you will understand. Thanks for watching, and see you tomorrow night.